I'm Jasmine Birtles, founder of MoneyMagpie.com. And do remember to follow us, like us, and comment. We love having comments. We always look at them. We always reply. So do all of those things. Now, today I am joined by somebody I know rather well. In fact, it's the investing editor of MoneyMagpie.com, Ruby Layram. Ruby, hello.
Hello, it's very, very good to be here.
Well, I'm grateful that you found the time to join us because I know that you have a very popular subject to talk about, which is how
Yes.
to turn £10 into £10,000. So that sounds like just magic, frankly.
Yes.
Yes. So give me the basics of what you're going to talk about, because I am guessing, because it's Money Magpie, it's not a get rich quick scheme.
No, this is not a get rich quick scheme. And I guess the basics of where this stems from and sort of the underlying principle is that to be the best investor, it's not necessarily about having the most money, but it's actually about having the best investing habits. So it's the idea that you can, in fact, take £10 and over time you can grow that into quite a substantial investment pot by consistently investing small amounts over time.
Great. So where do we start with our £10? What are the first steps?
Yes, so you start with your £10, which, when you really think about it, isn't really too much money. I'm sure a lot of people could find £10 to spare here or there. And on Money Magpie, we have tons of free guides about ways to make extra money. So if you want to start this and you are looking for that £10, we've got tons and tons of useful guides. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. But yeah, so once you've got that sort of initial £10, or you can even start with £5 if you wanted to. There are investment platforms out there that allow you to start with small amounts such as that. It's then a case of finding a platform. So it's doing your research, finding an investment platform that is regulated by the FCA in the UK. That's very, very important. And signing up, creating your account, depositing that initial £10. And then it kind of gets to the bit that most people find a bit more overwhelming, and that's actually deciding what to put that £10 in. So that's about doing the research. I would personally consider when you're very, very first starting, don't do anything too kind of wild, don't do anything too out there. Stick to the basics, stick to ETFs, stick to gold, stick to the big stocks that you probably use in your everyday life, like Apple, Microsoft, and Amazon, because it will be a lot easier to research those kinds of things. You'll be able to find tons of information and you'll probably be able to talk to people that you know to kind of get an idea about their opinions on those things as well. So that just makes the research process a lot easier.
So there's a lot to unpick there. So
Yes.
I'm just because firstly we're talking about £10 or £5, as you say. We're talking about
Yes.
that every month, though, aren't we? So what's the
Yeah.
best way to invest to get that £10 out of your account into an investment every month?
Every single month. Yeah. So, like you said, to be able to grow that £10, you can't just invest £10 and expect it to suddenly become £10,000. You do have to actively keep reinvesting. And the easiest way to do that is to find an investment platform that allows you to automate your investments.
And what do you
So,
mean by an investment platform? Let's explain that.
so this is an online exchange or sort of brokerage, they're sometimes called or referred to as well, that essentially connects you with the stock market. So it's sort of a third party that I guess acts like a little bit of a middleman. You put your money in, they have a whole list of different investment options that you can choose from. And then you can use their platform to buy stocks or shares or invest in things like REITs or gold. So it depends, depending on what you want to put your money into, will depend on the platform that you need to use.
And we've got an article, haven't we, that looks at these various different platforms like
Yeah.
AJ Bell, eToro, Trading
Yes. Yeah.
212, Hargreaves Lansdown, Charles Stanley. There are quite a few of them.
There
Um,
are quite a few. Yeah.
yes, and I think we'll make sure that we put a link to that article below. So have a
Yes.
look. If you're
Yeah.
wondering, because there are a number of these. They have different ways of charging. Some of them are cheaper
Yeah.
than others. Some of them are cheaper if you're like me, a buy and hold type, or some
Yes.
of them are
Yeah.
cheaper if you're the sort of person who likes to keep trading every month, So that's why we're not going to give you a specific one now to that you say, oh, you
Yes.
can go here. but we'll give you the article that you can look at and you can decide for yourself. That's what we're doing, isn't it, Ruby?
Yes, it is, because I think what you said there about fees is also really important. So I suppose when you're sort of doing this process of turning £10 into £10,000, that sort of first month is when all of your research is going to take place, and you need to look at the platforms in detail and then obviously the investments in detail. But after that, once you've done all that research and once you've probably bored yourself by reading through tons of information about various different platforms and you found the perfect one, then it is just a case of setting up those automatic monthly investments. So after all that hard work, you can just sort of automate the investments and essentially sit back and relax. But obviously, you do need to stay
Yeah.
on top of things like the news as well. But when you use a platform that allows you to automate it, you can literally just, it's like a direct debit. So it takes it out of your account every month. And usually you can choose a date when it gets taken out. So you can kind of line it up with when you get paid, for example. And it does just come out of your account like any other subscription that you might have to
Yeah.
anything
So
else.
just an automated £10 a month at the beginning of the
Yeah.
month, middle of the month, end of the month, whatever. But
Yeah.
you know that it's going to be sent out every month, and you don't have to think about it. And that's what I like.
Exactly.
Speaking
Yeah.
of not thinking about it,
Yeah.
and let's be honest, most of us, you think, oh, investing, and there are libraries full of books on, investing principles, blah blah, stuff coming out every day. But if
Yeah.
you're the sort of person, which I am, who really can't be bothered, you just want to have something quite easy that you're going to put
Yes.
your money in. It's not going to be too risky. It's going to make you some decent money.
Yes.
I rather than looking into, as you say, Tesla and Amazon and
Yeah.
whatever, you could just put it into a fund, couldn't you? And so let's talk
Yes.
about funds, because you've mentioned ETFs. There's also sort of index tracking funds, and then there are funds that are set up by guys in the city who go buy, sell, sell.
Yes. Yeah.
So let's just unpack those potential, what is a fund? Why
Yes.
should somebody, a newbie, use it? And what are the different types of funds that you could have?
So a fund is essentially a collection of different stocks and shares that are all umbrellaed under one singular investment that you can buy. So it's essentially a way of buying, 20, 50, even 100, sometimes different stocks under just one umbrella. So all you have to do is buy one thing, but your money gets split up between all of the different investments up in that fund. We call it diversification, which basically means spreading your money across different things so that the performance of your investment portfolio isn't reliant on just one company, because that can be quite
Yeah.
risky.
If
Say
it,
you put all of your money in Amazon and then Amazon, for whatever reason, crashes, then you lose all of
mm,
that money. Whereas if you spread that money between, say, Amazon and then maybe a healthcare stock, maybe even a stock in like the fashion industry or something completely different, then even if Amazon crashes, the other two stocks that you invest in might help your portfolio to kind of regain some of its value. So the idea with a fund is that you can do that diversification process without actually having to buy lots and lots of individual stocks and shares.
yes, because some of them have literally hundreds of
Yes,
companies on
yeah,
them. I mean, so you're really spreading your bets. As you say,
yeah,
they talk about diversifying your portfolio. They mean spread your bets, never put
yes,
your
yeah,
eggs in one basket, etc. So you've got these funds, like sort of big bag of load of companies, and you put your £10 in that. But there are different types of funds, aren't there? And they have different charges. I mean, I'm just thinking, let's talk about ETFs to start off with,
yes,
and index tracking funds. So
yes.
explain those, would you?
So these are typically your cheaper funds, and by that we mean the fees that are involved with investing in them, and that's because they are passively managed. So, the kind of example you gave earlier was someone sitting in an office saying buy or sell down the phone. With an ETF, that doesn't really happen. It's more automated, so the fund tracks an index or tracks a collection of stocks passively itself. So it's kind of designed to track that without someone having to go in and manage it for you. And then you have managed funds, which are the opposite of that. So that's where you actually have a fund manager who does the balancing for you based on kind of your goals and your risks. So when you're investing in an ETF, you don't have that person who's looking at it constantly on your behalf. It is just tracking either an index, which is so an index, something like the FTSE 100, which is the 100 largest stocks on the London Stock Exchange. And then you also have the S&P 500, which is the similar for the US Stock Exchange. So an index kind of tracks the biggest stocks for a particular exchange. But then you also have ETFs that might not track a sort of an exchange, but instead they track a sector. So they might track the healthcare sector, or they might track the AI sector even.
Or they might track Asia or Japan,
Yes, yes,
Brazil
yeah,
or something. Yes.
yeah,
So you've got ETFs that are basically run by computer, which don't need a new
yes,
stock for every Christmas, and so
yeah,
they don't need to be paid huge amounts of
exactly.
fees. And this is the issue with funds that are run by actual people. That some of them do
Yeah,
manage to beat the index, like the FTSE that you mentioned, or the
yes,
S&P,
yeah,
but most of them don't, and they charge you for it. So
yeah,
it does seem to me that if you've got your £10 a month and you're thinking, where can I put it? An ETF, an exchange traded fund that tracks, say, the FTSE 100 or the S&P 500, or maybe that tracks India, or
yeah,
something you think is going to go up. Those sort of funds are probably the easiest and cheapest types to look
yes.
for, aren't they?
Yes, yeah, definitely. Like you said, they don't have those management funds, so you're not paying a person to invest for you. So it is a lot cheaper. And with ETFs, you still have to consider things like the costs of withdrawing your money when you eventually do want to take it out. And they might also have sort of smaller funds that are sort of charged for buying the actual assets themselves, but you don't have to pay someone to
Yeah.
manage it for you.
So I'm just thinking with these sort of learning a little bit, because it can sound a bit daunting, all these new words, exchange traded
Yes.
fund, there's index tracking funds as well, which are more sort of open-ended. Do we have some articles on Money Magpie and can we put them down below in the comments that will explain more about what these are and how to find a good one?
Yes, so we have tons of ETF guides on Money Magpie Invest, and you can find them under the stocks and shares section on the website. And we also have a really, really helpful investment glossary, which takes all of these really complicated terms and basically explains them in a way that's a bit easier to understand. So that's also a really good resource if you want to really know your stuff when it comes to the actual terminology that people in finance tend to use.
So we've got our £10 that we're going to be putting in every month. We're going to
Yes.
automate it. We're going to put it in some sort of fund, probably an ETF
Yes.
because it's cheap and it's easy and
Yeah.
you know. And then we're basically going to leave it. I mean, I'm
Yep.
assuming that it's just like rinse and repeat. And then to get to 10,000, I mean, it's a good start, but I'm guessing that after a year or so, if you can, you're going to increase the £10 to £15 or £20, and then maybe
Exactly.
£30. Is that the method?
Yeah, that's the idea. So the idea is that £10 is sort of a good way to start. It's a good way to sort of build confidence around investing. And then as you get used to it, you can slowly increase that. Ideally, I would personally aim for £10 a week, which would be about £40 a month. And if you do that, and you invest it in a fund that gives you sort of a return of between 7 and 8%, which is sort of the average returns of things like the S&P 500, then it might take you around 14 years to turn that £10 into £10,000. Obviously, that's not guaranteed. So I can't say for definite that's how long it will take you because the market, especially at the moment, is very volatile. So no one really knows exactly how long. But the idea is that eventually you gradually build up that investment to £10 a week, or you might even be able to eventually hit something like £100 a month. And the more that you invest, obviously, the quicker it will take you to get to that £10,000. But we also, I think it's quite important to talk about compound growth or compound interest, which people probably might have heard of before. And that's the idea that even though you're only technically investing £10 of your own money, the growth of your portfolio is sort of reinvested. So it snowballs over time. So it's not like it's £10 every time being invested. It's the returns that you've made are being reinvested themselves. So any dividends that you get or any returns that you get are then contributing to your growth as well. So it sort of all snowballs together and builds up into that £10,000 pot.
That's a very good point, actually, because they do often ask you, do you want to reinvest the gains,
Yes.
or do you want to have them? And so you should always click on I want to reinvest, because otherwise
Yes.
not going to
Yeah.
go as much as we'd hoped. Yes.
Yeah, 100% always reinvest if you can, because that will just speed up the process of hitting that goal. And it just means that you're putting your investments to work. So you're getting dividends or you're getting returns, and then you're reinvesting them to grow them even more. So always reinvest if you can.
And when, as it will, the stock market suddenly goes junk,
Yeah.
what do you do then with your money that's going out every month or every week?
So time in the market always beats time in the market, as they say, which basically means that even when the markets dip, it's just about staying consistent, sticking to your plan, and essentially trusting the process, because it's very normal for markets to dip. But most of the time, and again, we can't guarantee anything, most of the time they will recover. We've seen it recently with the US stock market. And, a lot of people panicked at the kind of initial volatility, but now it is slowly sort of going back up and it's slowly getting stronger. And I think people that panic sold are probably maybe regretting that decision. So I think it's a case of sticking to your plan, staying consistent. Obviously, you've got to make sure that the money you're investing is money that you can afford to lose. And by that, we mean that if something like that does happen, so if the market does suddenly go downwards, it isn't going to affect your ability to pay for your kind of living expenses and those kind of costs. So that is something really important to consider. But for most people, if you are investing sort of £10, £20 a month, it's usually something that you can afford to put a bit of risk on, really.
And Ruby, you've only recently graduated, I know, in the last few years.
Yes,
But you've been investing for a while. So you were investing when you were a student, and I'm
I
guessing you
was.
weren't rolling in cash, at the
I
time.
wasn't, I was not rolling in cash. No. So when I was a student, I started uni and I was a waitress. So we all know waitresses don't exactly earn loads and loads of money. And then I started doing freelance writing, and that's sort of what I actually used to sort of build up my investments. I was using the money that I was getting from articles to invest, basically, because it was sort of extra cash on the side of my waitressing job. So it didn't feel like I was using all of that money that I was earning from waitressing, and it was money that I could put in an investment portfolio and I was happy to leave. And that's sort of how it started. And that's why I always say to people, if you want to start investing, look for a small side hustle that you can do, because that will just give you that confidence to put that money at risk, because it's extra money, it's not coming from your main salary, so you can afford to risk it.
That's a good idea. So you are living the dream. You are putting your
Yes.
£10 or more, hopefully than that, per month,
Yes.
week into investments, and you're just going to leave it there
Yes.
and just keep
Yeah.
it the same.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, I'm quite lucky because I am younger, so I have the time for it to grow.
Mhm.
The earlier you start, the better when it comes to investing, because, like we say, it is all about time in the market. So it's never too early to start. If you're sitting there and you haven't started yet, get that £10 and start today, because the longer you give yourself, the more it will grow.
Now, handily, we have created, or rather, you have created an actual course, a free
Yes.
course that people can sign up to. And this is the really important part. And we're going to put the link down below. So take a look at that. If not, just go on to Money Magpie and look for £10 to £10,000. So
Yes.
explain what this course involves.
So this is an email newsletter course that essentially takes you through every single step of turning that £10 into £10,000. So we explain how to research an investment platform. We then explain how to research different types of investments. So that's where you'll learn a bit more about things like ETFs, but we also cover things like cryptocurrency, property, and gold. So sort of different types of investments depending on how much risk you want to take. And then we explain how to set it up as an automated monthly investment. And then we sort of give you tips on how to stay consistent, how to gradually increase your investments, and essentially how to stay accountable, because that's the main thing. Like I said right at the beginning, it's all about your habits. If you can get into the habit of investing consistently, not being scared when the market does dip slightly and just sticking with your plan, then you have the potential to grow that very significantly.
That's great. And we've got all of these links down below, but you can also go to moneymagpie.com, go into the investing section and see we have a wealth of guides, articles, videos, all sorts about all types of investing. And certainly for those who are just starting, we've got all
Yes.
of help there, and it's pretty easy. Even I can understand it. So there we are. Ruby, thank you very much for that. It's been great to have you on. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for explaining how to turn £10 into £10,000. Now, as I said at the beginning, like, share, comment. We're very interested in your comments. And do remember that nothing that's been said today should be taken as financial advice. It's financial information. I always have
Yes.
to say that. It's boring, but there we go. We have to say it. And join us again for next week's podcast. We have them every week. Join, share, subscribe, tell all your friends how fabulous it is. You know you want to. I've been Jasmine Birtles. You've been great. Thank you and good night.